911, what is your emergency?
Units respond code 3 to a 1050 on the highway. Vehicles are blocking multiple
We're en route
lanes
to the
of travel.
hospital. Patient is currently having
We've got a
cardiac
4-alarm
arrest and has
fire
been
here.
intubated.
Send
Protesters
additional
are outside
trucks.
of City Hall and they are not complying with our
Out
orders
on
to
one. Hold the
disperse.
air.
In a rapidly changing world for first responders where it seems that every day the rules and norms are changing, there is one voice you can count on to give you the latest in emergency news. That is Lifeline. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Lifeline 911 Podcast with your host, Erica.
Hi.
I'm your co-host, Gary, and today we are going to be discussing how to survive a bad call.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, in this job, every once in a while, calls will happen. You'll either hear them on the 911 lines or dispatch them over the radio that will impact you, will get under your skin, will, well, for lack of a better word, I suppose, traumatize you.
Yeah.
And I think for a lot of people that are considering coming into this industry, that is probably the main reason they don't do it.
Yeah.
It's not so much, can I do the job or can I work the schedule? You know, is this going to be for me? It's mainly going to be, am I going to get a call that just utterly breaks me as a person?
If I'm going to be realistic, I don't know about break you as a person, but if you stay in it long enough, the answer is yeah.
Yeah.
You're going to have a call that you will never forget it.
Mm-hmm.
I have a couple in my back pocket that I will never forget what they sounded like and what the circumstances were. And that's on both sides of the radio.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I've got a couple as well that, you know, I still remember. I might not remember the exact date they happened, but
I don't either.
I do remember, you know, the events surrounding them and how they made me feel, and, you know, they impacted me.
Yeah.
And it's like we're all human, so getting impacted by these kind of things is certainly natural and expected, because you don't want to. I suppose one of the dangers of these kind of calls is that you won't process them. You won't take the time to work through them.
Yes.
Because I think that's been sort of a danger, like a less well-known aspect of this job is sort of the what do they call it? The PTSD.
Yeah.
Like the secondary PTSD of it.
Yeah.
Because especially if you're on like the 911 lines, you're hearing a lot of things that are, you know, awful out there and they're happening, and you feel really helpless because you're just on the phone and you can't jump through that line and help out. You're
in someone's nightmare with them. And we had a colleague, she doesn't work with us anymore, but I loved it. She put it beautifully. She said, taking 911 calls is like watching a horror movie with your eyes closed.
Yeah, that's a good way to put that.
And it is, I mean, when I heard her say that, I'm like, what? Where has that been? Because it is absolutely true.
Sure.
You are in that person's nightmare with them, and which is why it makes it such a noble profession.
Yeah, it's there's a lot of self-sacrifice.
Because you are giving a little bit of yourself every time you are in one of those calls. Mm-hmm. And, you know, they don't happen nearly as often as the other not so intense calls, but...
Which is a good thing.
Which is good, because can you imagine being hammered with that trauma every single day, day in and day out? I mean, every single time the phone rang, we'd all be nuts. Yeah. We're all a little off anyway, but it would be worse.
Yes, it would. And, you know, as you said, thankfully these calls aren't something that happen every day, but, you know, there are calls that you're going to get where you're talking to a lady and she's in her closet hiding. Somebody's broken into the house, and that person finds the lady, and you hear her scream, and then the phone goes dead. And, like, that's how that ends.
Yeah.
Or you'll hear somebody, like, crying on the phone, saying that they just can't go on, then a gunshot, and that's how that ends.
Yeah.
You know, not to dissuade or scare people or bring up trauma, but just, we try and keep it real on this show.
Yeah.
And it's, those are unfortunately very real calls that happen. People, turn their back for a second to go answer the phone. They come back to the bathroom. Their kid's drowned in the tub.
Yeah. And those horrible calls that you, that one.
Mm-hmm.
I got one of those.
Yeah.
And it did not go well.
No.
And I will never, ever, ever, ever forget the sound of that mother's voice. But I think the whole purpose of this particular episode is, because we did the one about how to take care of yourself and how not to take care of yourself. But now you're in it, right? And you are this, hopefully, newer call taker, dispatcher, and you've had this happen or you haven't had it happen. How do you cope after you get that call?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think it's important. I would say the very first thing is to don't believe the myth that you can just shake it off.
Right.
I think that's where people get in trouble immediately, is they try to just clamp it down and they just, I'm fine. I'll be fine.
Mm-hmm.
No. Feel the feelings.
Right.
Acknowledge them. And I would say, reach out to your leadership and say, can I have a minute?
Yeah. Yeah, that's like the whole point of quiet rooms, which are just like, as we kind of discussed earlier, we're like, cool, quiet, dark rooms, is to kind of have a place to take a moment to start the process of, getting through, like, what did I just hear?
Yeah.
What did I just witness?
Yeah.
How can I, move on past this, really? And again, it's not going to be every call that you get like that. For me, I've found that there are usually, most people, I guess, have calls that, like, a few kinds of calls that get through their armor.
Yeah.
Most of them, like, say 95% of the calls, if they come in, it's good no matter what. But usually everybody has, like, a couple of things that are like, if I get, like, an elderly person call or like a dog call, or, kid call, I know that that's going to be something that I am emotionally weak to.
Yep.
And so you can kind of start to, prepare by having you sort of I don't want to say your guard up, but being aware of, this is something that's going to affect you a little bit more profoundly than, say, the typical, like, a crash or something.
Yeah. And, there may be something, like you said, and it might be things in your own past that come up, and you find yourself on the phone with your own past. I know that sounds crazy, but that's happened to me. And I don't know that you can really get away from that. But like you said, I think mentally preparing yourself or attempting to prepare yourself for that possibility that you may take the call from someone else that takes you right back to a situation you yourself were in. Mm-hmm. And I think it's important to know how, I don't want to say it, I want to say this the right way. Don't beat yourself up for how you feel in those moments. Don't be down on yourself because you are affected by the call, because I think that makes you human.
Yeah, absolutely. Because
some people, I have seen this now, no kidding. I have seen people say, I should be stronger than this. Says who?
Yeah.
By whose standard? By whose measuring stick are you measuring this against? Why? Mm-hmm. Why can't you get off the phone, go to a quiet room, and scream? Mm-hmm. So that you are healthier for the next person.
Yeah, because you can't really control the emotions that are going to come up. You can control how you handle those and your reactions to them.
Yep.
So there's no reason to feel ashamed or weak if you're like, this call really got to me.
Yeah.
But you then can take control over that and say, this is how I'm going to respond to it.
Yeah.
You know, I'm going to go take a minute to, you know, scream into a pillow or, you know, run on the treadmill or like
Yeah.
whatever it is that you need to, you know, just sit quietly, you know.
Yeah. Your peer support.
Your peer support, yeah. As you mentioned, like if you take a difficult call, most of the people, especially if they've been in the industry a long time, are going to know what that feels like
Yeah.
and are going to be 100% okay with listening to it, you know, and talking to you about it.
Yeah.
And most agencies have, you know, peer support programs, you know, crisis programs that you can kind of talk about. But you need to, as you said at the beginning, don't try and just think you can absorb all of this all the time.
It's not. It's unwise to think so, and it's not healthy for you. You have to have an outlet. I know recently we had someone take a difficult call to do with a child, and they went home thinking that same thing. I'm fine. I'll be fine. But what started to happen is they got home, they couldn't sleep.
Mm-hmm.
The story started replaying in their head.
Yep. As you said, a horror movie with your eyes closed.
Yeah, it started replaying, and then he started, should I ask this question, that question, this question, that question? And before long, you start guessing yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, couldn't go to sleep, so wake up the next day, come to work, and actually, if I remember right, they said as they were driving here, their anxiety started to
building.
go up, and they're like, what is going on? What is wrong with me? Nothing.
Yeah. Nothing.
Nothing's wrong with you. You are having a delayed reaction, I think, to what you witnessed, what you heard. And he did the right thing. He came in, he found one of us, and he's like, so I took this call, and I'm not okay.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know how to handle it. I don't even know how to begin to process, but I'm not okay.
Mm-hmm.
The strongest, I just think that was the wisest thing he could have done,
Mm-hmm.
is come up and say, I need some help with this.
Yeah, because it's funny, like everybody, you know, in emergency communications, you know, works to help other people when, you know, they've got issues.
Mm-hmm.
But how many times do we see somebody that works like in 911 or, you know, police, fire, EMS, any of these, they have a problem, you know, and it could be any sort of a range of like, oh, I'm having a little bit of chest pain, I'll be fine, you know, or like, oh, I'm having some emotional problem, I'll be
Yes.
fine. And it's like, you know the number.
Okay, you're in the number.
Yeah, you are the number.
This
like,
is the place.
Yeah.
If you're going to go through any of those things, our thing is literally, Austin 911, do you need police, fire, EMS, or mental health services?
yeah.
If you need that, we got you. You can literally throw a rock in any direction and hit any one of those resources.
Yeah, metaphorically.
Of course.
Yes.
I mean, we don't throw rocks.
No. But yeah, it's like there's so many like, you know, times when like you need help, and it's okay to need help. It doesn't mean you're not doing good at your job. You're not being a successful person. You're not strong. You know, everyone needs to rest from time to time.
Yeah.
And like, I mean, if you look at migrating birds, like the leading bird, there's a point to this story.
Okay.
Trust me.
You should see my face right now. I'm like, I'm sorry, what?
Like you'll have the lead bird, you know, and that's the spot that takes the most energy because you're in front of, you know, you don't have any, you know, you're hitting all the wind resistance.
Okay.
And so after a few hours, the lead bird will fall back to the edge of the, you know, the V, and which is the easiest spot to kind of let you rest a little bit, and another bird will move in. So just like that, you know, you need time to recoup and to, you know, my metaphors are
I
good.
love it
Yeah.
because I'm visualizing all of this. This is awesome. Okay.
Yeah. And so you need time to like figure out what's happening with you, like how that's impacting you. And a lot of times, you know, it helps to talk that out. Sometimes it doesn't, you know, and every person's, you know, you do you, as they say.
Yep.
But there's lots of people that have been through very similar circumstances that are always willing to talk about it.
And it doesn't even have to be, someone so official, if you will.
Sure.
If you have, like, especially for agencies the size of, say, ours, most people don't go through training just by themselves. They go with a class. And so they have people that they have begun their careers with.
A battle buddy.
Pretty much, yeah. And it could be as simple as, sitting with a person that is next to you and saying, "Hey, have you ever had a call like this? Mm-hmm. What did you do? How did you process?" Or, a senior, I think I said bachelor, a senior person, you could say that too. But even if you haven't, or if you're with a classmate type person, just bounce it off of them. I mean, it could be, you're looking for no judgment.
Sure, yeah.
Right? You're looking for someone that can possibly relate. Maybe in having that unofficial conversation, you come to a conclusion that you didn't do anything wrong, or that you're just plain old human for being affected. There's no magic potion.
No.
Really. There's no secret formula, but I think the worst possible thing you can do is not be honest with yourself about how it's affecting you.
Yeah. Because the more you try and ignore it or hide from it or run for it, the bigger it's going to get.
Yeah.
It's going to just continue to grow. Mm-hmm. And it's hard, but you've got to turn around and face, this trauma,
Yeah.
And the only way over is through.
Ain't that the truth?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, for each of us, we're each going to have different, things that we're, susceptible to weak to. And some of it may just be I need a minute. And some of it may be I need, counseling to this. Yeah, professional counseling.
Yeah.
And all the range in between and everything else. But, if you do the job long enough, you're going to have these kinds of things happen. And I've had, people that have, worked here 15, 20 years that never had a problem with anything, and they take a random call on a Tuesday, and something just kind of either clicks finally with all the calls that they've taken over the years, and they just have I don't want to say meltdown, but they have a explosive emotional moment. We'll say
it's that single grain of rice that tipped the scales for them, and because what happens is we store up trauma. Think about it. Whether it be over the phone or on the radio, you can only take in that stuff for so long before it's going to find an outlet. One way or another. And I mean, I know we could probably take this back to the taking care of yourself and not taking care of yourself. And I think that's all full circle stuff.
Yeah.
Right? Because I think if you're eating right and you're exercising, you're getting enough sleep, and you have, you take time off when you're supposed to, that's all fine and good. But if you don't address the buildup of that vicarious trauma that we endure all the time, then you still are lacking in a way to take care of yourself. And that, I think this is one of those. Surviving bad calls, knowing when to ask for help. Yeah,
because a lot of the normal, we'll say, ways to blow off steam with things, you're not going to probably go home and talk to your spouse about a lot of the things,
right,
unless they're, somebody that's also in the profession.
Yeah.
But, if they're a normal human being, I guess, quote unquote, you're not going to be, they're not going to be like, "Oh man, I had a long day at work. I had all these forms I needed to fill out, and it took all day. How was your day?" "Oh man, I was really affected by this call when this 13-year-old blew his head off, and brain matter was it's just, you're not going to.
That's not typically how you swap those work stories.
No, it's not. You need to find that. That's why, I think that's probably why one of the reasons most people that do first responders and telecommunicators and things like that usually have such close bonds with each other, because you really, for outsiders, it's hard to understand.
Yeah, because this is not the stuff that you like you said, you don't run home.
No.
And you don't get out of work and call your friend who, I don't know, is a florist. You don't call them and go, girl, you ain't going to believe what happened last night. So on and so forth.
Yeah.
And all the things that you're not going to do that. You need someone that can understand what that feels like, what that sounds like, and won't go, oh my God, you poor thing.
Right.
That's not going to help either. You need a way to really work through that. We got the resources, but back to what I really wanted to say is back to the person who took this call. What he was surprised is that we jumped immediately into action. He made the statement, I think I need some help with this. Say no more. You go to your station, you do not log in, you hang out, and I got it from here. And we immediately,
Yeah.
we went to work on that problem. We didn't burden him with taking care of himself. So I think surviving a bad call, if there was a next due, is give your leadership an opportunity to help you.
Yeah.
You'll be surprised just how quickly they will spring into action, or they should.
Yeah. I mean, so like first off, like don't blame yourself or think yourself weak.
Yeah.
Second off, as you said, give your leadership opportunity to help because we've all been there.
Yeah.
And we've all been through it. And, a lot of times it sucks, but it is part of, I think, the mentality of people that stay in this profession a
Yeah.
long time.
Yeah.
You understand you are going to be affected by slings and arrows that will leave scars. But understanding that you do it to serve your community, I think is one of the key features of people that kind of tend to gravitate towards these
Yeah.
professions.
Yeah, because this is not a cakewalk. It's, there is prestige
Yes.
that comes with it, and there's, you get the admiration and appreciation from your community and people. Thank you for your service, all of that. But it is, well, it certainly isn't the money.
Well, yeah, I mean, typically, governments are great to retire from,
Sure.
but like you're not going to be buying a house in Malibu anytime.
No,
the
you're
only
not gonna.
Malibu house I'm going to get is Malibu Stacy. They still make that? I don't know.
I don't know. Or Malibu Barbie, but
No, yeah, Malibu Stacy was the Simpsons one, wasn't it?
Malibu Stacy. I just assume you got the name wrong and we're talking about Malibu Barbie.
Okay. I mean, I don't buy a lot of dolls anymore.
I mean, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I mean, is there something you want to share?
No.
Okay. Back to our major
Sure.
thing that we're talking about here. Don't dig on yourself. Don't think yourself weak. Don't deprive your leadership of an opportunity to help you. Seek out all of the resources that are available to you and ask for a day. If you need a day, take a day.
Yeah.
I'm not saying call in sick like a crazy person. What I'm saying is let your leadership know, hey, I am affected by this. And that's not going to be every call, because I know there's somebody out there that's probably thinking, ooh, a
Yep.
vacation. No, that's not what it is.
Right.
Don't take advantage, but, use it wisely. Use it in a way that is going to benefit you so that you can, if you've decided to make this your career, figure out a plan now for when you get those calls, because you will get those calls.
Because really, like, most people tend not to think of it this way, but if you were, working for the city and, you pulled your back doing some job, you would, the city would cover a few days for you to be off and to feel better.
Yeah.
I hate to say the term emotional injury, but
Well,
they are a
it's
lot.
true.
Yeah. Most government entities will treat that the same way, sort of, workers' compensation and all that. There are,
'Cause
resources.
we absolutely do.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think most of them do because, it's a very, very real thing. And again, it's not to take the week off for like vacation purposes, but, sometimes, you do need just that time to recover.
Yeah.
And I think you mentioned earlier that there's a crisis text line available in one of our earlier episodes.
Yeah, and it's 741-741. So if you text home to that number, just the word home to 741-741, it's a crisis text line. And I don't know that it's like an instant response, but everything that I've read, I fortunately have not had to call it myself, but everything that I've read about it is typically within a few minutes, someone will respond to you and try to get more information about what's happening to you. And if they can, hook you up with something local. And just know that they are going to, they're available, even if it's just a conversation that you want to have. And these are counselors. So they can talk to you about this. If you feel that it's not something you really don't want your coworkers to know that you're feeling this way about it, I say talk to somebody. Ideally us, because we are in it with you and we can help because we know exactly what it feels like. But if not us, someone.
If you've tried talking to your fellow, call takers and dispatchers on calls that are bothering you, you've tried talking to your leadership on it, and, you've reached out to, workers' compensation to try and get some counseling services, and then even gone to, the crisis hotline. And if you've done all that and tried to help this and it's still not working, leaving the profession is not weak. Yes. I would much rather have someone quit the job than quit life, I guess.
Yeah. Oh, my God. Because, I was waiting for that, and I'm glad you said it because it's true. It does not mean that you are less than. If you come to the conclusion that your mental and emotional health cannot withstand taking this day in and day out, you have to be real with yourself. You have to be honest with yourself and look at this thing for what it is. This is that environment. This is that life. You will be taking calls like this, and it's not a one-time call that you deal with it and you never have to deal with it again.
Right.
No, they're going to keep coming.
Yeah. And again, it's not weak if you leave. It's
actually it's brave.
Yeah.
When you think about it.
Yeah. I mean, it would be much better to leave and continue on with your life and have just been, had this, level of service to your community been a bit of your journey.
Yeah.
Than the end of it, because not everybody's built for that.
And that's okay.
And that's 100% okay.
Yeah.
There have been a lot of people over the years that have, come up to me and just been like, Gary, I can't do this job anymore. And I have always really tried to emphasize to them, thank you for the service that you've given to your community, whether it's been, 3 weeks or 10 years. Yeah,
whatever
years.
it is. Especially people, I've heard people say, I've worked so hard, I hate to give up. It's not giving up.
No.
It's recognizing that this is not for you.
Right.
That's okay. That takes a level of courage that a lot of people don't have.
Yeah.
They will stick with it because it's a job. Knowing that it is causing them harm every day they stick with it takes an amazing level of courage to say, no, this is not for me.
Well, everyone, from all of us at Lifeline 911 Podcast, I'm Gary.
I'm Erica.
We appreciate you listening. And this week, I believe, is going to be 4th of July. So stay safe out there. And, make sure you throw the firecrackers away from you so they're not in your hand when they go off.
Wow.
And we will see you guys next week.
Thank you for watching our production of Lifeline 911 Podcast. If you have any questions about the topics we discussed today, or if there's something specific you'd like us to cover in a future episode, send us your questions at lifeline911podcast@gmail.com. Stay safe out there. Until next time, this is Lifeline 911 signing off.